You're listening to the Generational Wealth Through Commercial Real Estate podcast. Your host, Will Smith, is a former NFL player that found his passion in commercial real estate. Every week, you will learn from industry experts everything you need to know to get started investing in commercial real estate to build generational wealth.
Thank you for tuning in to the Generational Wealth Through Commercial Real Estate show. It's your host, Will Smith, and I'm here today with Todd Sachs. And we're going to be talking about some really cool stuff today. But before we get into the show, if you're watching this show for the first time, do me a favor, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you've been watching the show for some time and for whatever reason you haven't left a review, please leave a review. Now, these reviews are how I keep bringing on rock star guests like I have today. All right, housekeeping is out of the way. Todd, man, he's with Sachs Realty. He's been in real estate for, about 30 years now, man? You've been in it a long time, right?
Long time.
Yeah. And, man, he's done everything from development to rezoning properties to, whatever it is in real estate where you can make moves. Todd is doing it. So that's why I got him on the podcast so we can talk about that today. So, Todd, man, tell us about who you are and how you got into real estate, man.
Will Smith, I appreciate being on your show.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt you're doing a great job. I love your podcast, and you really have something great going on, and it's all about helping other people. So I'm happy to be on the show, honored. And I'm a real estate broker here in Maryland.
Yeah,
I've lived in Maryland my entire life. I'm 52, so I've been at it, like you said, for quite some time.
Right.
I started swinging a hammer and as a general contractor in 1989. So for many listening, that predates their birthday
right.
when they were born. So,
yeah.
But anyway, I'm a real estate broker, which is sort of the newest thing for me. I started my brokerage back in 2017. So we're coming into really our fourth year of doing this.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like the epitome of my career. I'm having a lot of fun because I get to teach now a lot of what I've learned through hard knocks. So
right.
Licensed here in Maryland, like I said, we do both residential and commercial. We have a small team of agents. I think we have 9. And I have a broker network all over the country, great brokers like yourself that we, refer business to. And so, yeah, my experience is on the investor side. I'm an investor myself, and I help other people make money through real estate.
Right. No, that's pretty cool, man. So you help. Well, obviously you're an investor and you're also a broker, so you help people on both sides of the table there. Tell us about your investment journey, because that's what my listeners really want to hone in on. How did you get started investing?
Yeah, well, it was way before, I started doing this way before HGTV became a thing. So I think, with a lot of clients that are just starting out, I think it's important that people get real information, straight information. It's not what you see on TV.
Right.
I think that the biggest thing that is hurting a lot of the investors, at least their opportunities, where they get so maybe discouraged, is that they hear about how, you can invest in real estate with no money down and, using other people's money and, wholesaling. And there's a lot of money that's being made selling books and programs and getting people to these seminars. And guys can make money doing that. I mean, there are wholesalers that may be listening saying, hey, I make a lot of money. And right now wholesaling is kind of hot because the inventory is limited. But the biggest thing is, starting out, you have to decide to buy that first deal. So, for me, I was a contractor. So I was swinging a hammer, I was, doing home improvement work. So for me to buy that first deal was scary because I didn't have the money to do it.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows, I'm pretty much, I didn't go to college. I mean, I went to college for a semester. So, not that I'm advocating don't go to college, but, I'm about as basic of a guy as it gets. I mean, I have a high school education. I'm just not afraid to work and put the time in. But as far as, what really got me in the deal is, to investing was I was watching other people being successful. And I also wanted to make money.
Right.
I wanted to make a decent living, raise a family, be able to put through kids through college, which I didn't have that opportunity. And I knew that I needed to do more than just work with my two hands, because you're kind of capping out of what you're going to pay for a guy that swings a hammer or digs holes. You kind of cap out there. So I knew that if I wanted to make money, I needed to invest so that I could put my sweat equity into it, but that I could realize the profits on the appreciation from my work, from the people that I was doing work for.
Right.
So that really got my appetite going to, hey, you can make a lot of money in this business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's very cool, man. And that's a really good point that you made there. And I want the listeners to really capture that you can make a living with your hands and doing your 9-to-5 job, so to speak, but you won't make a fortune doing that. And it's through investing where you really start to build that generational wealth. And I appreciate you sharing that story, man. That's really good points there.
And real estate is permanence of investment. So I've done a lot of investing through the years, but when we're talking about, real estate, it's not a liquid asset. So a lot of people think, that they can buy it and sell it fast. You may not be able to do that, but through the test of time over the last 100 years, at least what I've been tracking, it's consistently gone up 3 or 5% on average every single year. And that's really, not counting the improvements that we make when we go in and rehab and invest. So there is a safety, element to investing in real estate versus a stock. Right. And by the way, I'm not a stockbroker. I'm not an accountant. I'm not an attorney, but you guys, so if you're out, you're listening, but I have invested in stocks. And, personally, I've done terrible with that. I'm not a very good stock investor. I picked the wrong things. But over time, I've done a pretty good job with real estate.
Yeah. No, that's very good point. It's a tangible, and the reason why I like real estate is just because it's tangible. I can go out and I can go touch that building. I can drive by my building. I can see how my building is doing. I like that component of it, and you got more control over it than the stock market. Who's to say, a company that's, Fortune 500 company, the CEO goes and does something crazy and the stock, plummets. I don't want to be in a position where somebody else is controlling my own destiny. So that's why I really like real estate. So let's talk about, would you have something to add to that?
No, I was just going to say, but we have to talk about how they get into it. Right. So that's what we're going to talk about in the show. We're going to talk about, okay, you want to do it. Yeah. How do you do it?
That's exactly what I was about to ask you. So go ahead, man. Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So because you need money.
Right.
So, and I didn't have any money when I started. So my first couple deals that I structured, and I always tell people, you have to have something.
Yeah.
And for me, that something was credit.
Right.
So I always tell people, look, if people are going to lend you money, unless you come across money, and when I talk about, and we'll talk a little bit about that, but if you don't have money, you better have credit. At least have a credit score and a history, or you're paying your credit cards off, and have a job. Have an income coming in. You don't have to, and a lot of people, start where it makes sense. Let's be practical. Buy your first deal, right?
Yeah.
And, so how do you make that deal happen? You can either go out, have a good friend of yours that lends you money, family member that lends you money. You can go get hard money, or you can go to an actual bank, which I did on my first couple deals. I applied for what was a commercial loan, even though it was a residential single family dwelling. Yeah. And I borrowed, I think it was 75 or 80% of what I needed to do the initial purchase. Yep. So let's just keep it simple and say it's $100,000, right? maybe I put $20,000 down and finance the $80,000 of the purchase price. And then most of the lenders, the banks, will give you 100% of your construction cost.
Yeah.
So you can borrow that. So, you find out what the cost is going to be for the asset.
Yep.
What you need to put in, get your estimates on what you need to put into it as your rehab.
Right.
The acronym now is ARV, or after repaired value, right? We in the real estate business say, what are the comps, the comparables? What can I sell that for in that community? And then basically you take that package to your lender and with your cash, and you borrow the money to complete your rehab. If you have bad credit, you need cash. Nothing's going to substitute cash. Or, if you can find a hard money lender that will lend you money with bad credit or low scores, credit scores, you're going to really pay a lot for that money. And, and the market's is very competitive. And when you're starting out, you're going to make mistakes. There are going to be cost overruns. There are going to be things that you didn't see when you were going into that purchase. Yeah.
No, that's a good point there. And so what you're mentioning here, it can be applied to single family and also smaller multifamily, because you got to find a deal. And once you find a deal, it's all the same options as far as how you're going to get it financed. You're paying cash, you're going to get a loan, and, hopefully you're doing a value add strategy, because that's where the real meat is at. And if you're doing that, then you need to raise capital for that or get funding for that as well. So those are all good points, man.
Now, I will say it's important to know what your strategy is, right?
Right.
So a lot of people, so you may find yourself into, two different kind of buckets. One, your strategy may be to build up your cash, and you might do that through a series of flips.
Right.
So if you're trying to build, maybe you only have $50,000 to start.
Yeah.
And, you don't have enough to get that multifamily, to put that 25 or 30% down.
Yeah.
So, and you want that multifamily to be really at a good rate and a long term, but maybe you need to build your cash first. So your strategy for the first 1 or 2 years may be to flip your cash and try and build your money to be in more of a position for a long-term strategy. Or maybe you want to start out with a long-term strategy and you want to go into single family residential instead of multifamily. And I just want to segue for a second, because there's a big difference.
Yeah.
And I tell investors this, especially ones starting out all the time. You may want a multifamily, let's say a 2-unit dwelling or 4-unit dwelling or something even bigger than that.
Right.
Financing up to 4 units you can do with a residential type investor loan.
Yeah.
Once you hit 4 units or more, you're in a commercial category. It's completely different. But let's just talk about a multifamily, even a 2-unit dwelling.
Yeah.
What happens is you want to make sure that that's something that you want to own for a very long time, and for several reasons. Number one, you want to depreciate the structure, and not to get into that right now.
Yeah.
But what happens is, let's say your short-term strategy is you want to sell it within 3 to 5 years. The difference between a single family house where one family lives and investing in that and putting a tenant in there for 3 or 5 years, and the difference between a multifamily where you're going to keep it that same time frame, the difference is who's going to buy it after you.
Right.
So a single family house is going to probably be purchased by somebody who wants to live in it.
Yep.
They don't mind letting you make profit.
Right.
Right. Because the house actually is more valuable vacant, because they want to move in. They don't want to lease. They don't want to be stuck with a tenant.
Yeah.
They want to buy that single family house and make it a home.
Right.
So they're going to give you that appreciation. They're going to let you make a profit based on the market value.
Yep.
Your multifamily dwelling, your 2-unit, your 4-unit or bigger, an investor is going to buy that.
Right.
Does an investor want you to make money? No. Investor
Right.
wants to buy it for as cheap as they can.
Exactly.
So you're really not going to benefit by appreciation. They're going to try and beat you up based on as cheap as they can get it. So two different strategies, starting out. You want to be clear on how long you wish to keep those assets. And I always recommend testing the water with a single family. Could be a townhouse, row house, but a single family that will be a little bit more marketable when you go to sell it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk also to the investor that's, more savvy and they're trying to look for a way to, invest their capital, but the multifamily market, the cap rates are getting too compressed. Let's talk about strategies around how they can, invest in different things they wouldn't normally look at.
Yep. So, and, even for so you say the savvy investor, it could be somebody who's in residential and maybe they have 10 units or 15 units or whatever, but they're trying to, really, where do I go from there? Diversify a little bit, sort of hedge against any of the, potential fallouts, especially like right now. I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic. There's all kinds of talk about what in the world. I have people calling me all the time saying, man, I have this office building, small building, big building. What's happening? Am I safe? What should I do? So it's a great topic. So, you have somebody, you always want to make sure that you have some diversity in your portfolio, but start with the things, even if you're savvy, start with the things that make sense. So I always say, look at that property as what isn't being seen by the general public or other real estate professionals, because to be quite honest with you, agents, there aren't a lot of agents that are qualified to help investors.
Right.
I mean, you know that, right?
Right.
So what we always look for are areas that are promising, that are a little underdeveloped right now, but are showing a trend line to, really being built up. The cities are moving out a little bit. Here in DC, we have every artery coming out of DC, where everybody's like, taking these properties that were so and making them very nice and putting a lot of money. Understand what is on the horizon. What are our developers doing? I always check zoning. If you go to your local zoning departments, they will tell you what kind of development are in play. And these are, we're looking at things, so just more of a broad spectrum. We're talking about things that you don't know about. And undisclosed buyers looking at 47 acres off of Route 1. Things that start years before, because the communities they don't want to get the uprising in the community fighting the development. So a lot of these things are happening in the conceptual phase. So I always tell people, find out what's going on at your local level with zoning. Attend hearings. Now things are done a little differently, but you can still do it. You can Zoom, you can register prior to, I think 24, 48 hours. Everybody's different, but ask what development hearings are coming up. If you have a targeted area you're looking to invest, and sit in on those hearings, on those preliminaries, so you can kind of see where things are going. Then you can look at properties that could be subdivided. So if you know what's going on at a governmental, level, a government level, what's happening, what zoning changes, are they looking at, like here in Maryland, we have, what's called a quadennium zoning, review. So every 4 years, they're looking at rezoning areas. So you might see something that's residential, that's turned business local, or BL as we have, or the density might change. They may increase that density to allow for townhouses or multifamily or apartment buildings. So looking at existing land that is being marketed at a lesser use than what is possible, and, you know, challenge those properties or those areas, look for those and dig into the zoning, because agents make mistakes all the time, man.
Yeah.
I've picked up some of my best finds where an agent has it as a single family. It's listed on the MLS
Right.
as a standard sale.
Right.
It's not in commercial. It's not in the multifamily side.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it going, wow, this is DR 5.5. It is a split foyer house. Split foyer meaning it's got an upstairs. You walk in. It's got a upstairs, a downstairs. DR 5.5. If I can meet the right lot size, is a walkthrough permit for me to put a 2-unit dwelling in that house.
Wow.
And I can go in. It's already set up for it. It's a foyer. I can put doors, door to the upstairs, door to the downstairs, put a 2-unit dwelling in there. Now, all of a sudden, what did I just do with my investment? I bought it at a single family. Now it's worth way more because I'm going to have 2 tenants in there paying me a decent amount of money. And the agent just didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's
so,
great.
You know, bigger stuff. If you're an investor out there or you have buddies and you want to pool your cash together, I think in the next 12 or 18 months, nobody has a crystal ball, but I think you're going to see some of these, you know, buildings that have been standing for a while that have been primarily office.
Yeah.
We ain't going back to where we were. I strongly believe office will have a play in the commercial space, but not like it was. It was happening. This trend line of offices downsizing, companies downsizing, man, it's been happening for years, at least the last 5-7 years. COVID sped it up.
Right.
So I think you'll have an opportunity to buy some small office buildings where the owners are in their 70s, 80s, are sitting in Florida.
Right.
And, you know, they're done. They're not repurposing the building or spending money on it. They would rather liquidate that asset.
Yeah.
And, you know, it'd be good opportunities for people to pick them up and turn them into mixed use. Yeah. Which means, you know, maybe some office, retail, residential combined in one building.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question around that, because that's a good point there. How do you determine the highest and best use for a particular, you know, piece of property you're looking at?
Again, you have to see where things are going in that community. Are they on a trend line that's going up, or are they people moving out and the trend line going down? I'll give you a perfect example. Back in 2008, we had the housing crash, right? Yeah. I mean, at that point I was building, you know, I was rehabbing. I mean, things were going gangbusters here in Maryland, like all over the country. But what happened was the trend started to go down, right? Yeah. The headlines of the Baltimore Sun said the overpriced Baltimore housing market in 2005, 3 years before the housing crash. Right. Instantly, builders, developers like myself, we saw the faucet turn off. Now, in the real estate industry, the realtors, they call it the housing crash of 2008 because that's when they stopped making money. Yeah. Builders and developers started eating it in 2005. Wow. Right. We were like, things were dropping. And here's why. The trend was going down. So where's the bottom? Right. You don't know. So if you think something's a good deal today and the trend line's moving downward, you're going to buy it. And in 6 months, it's going to be worth less than what you paid. Yeah. The success in real estate, listen to me when I say this, is on the purchase. Right. Every bit of my success that I've made has been on the purchase side, because there are no promises and guarantees on the sale side. So if you're not at least sure that you're getting a pretty good cushion on the buy. Now, if it's like the stock market, man, that jacks up, the market trend goes way up and you get the upside on it too, all the better. Right. But most of your deals are going to be singles, doubles, and triples, not home runs. Yeah. So, you know, you have to, if you're looking for the home run or the grand slam, you're not going to make any moves. Right. You're going to have analysis paralysis on the deal, and you're just not going to pull the trigger and make it happen. Right. So you want to make sure that you're buying right. So how do you know where to buy? You have to understand what's going on in the community. You have to find out what is missing So you have to have some kind of idea of what you're trying to do. Like if affordable housing's missing,
yeah,
and it's on a trend line up, build affordable housing. You're going to be pretty secure. If it goes way up, you can turn it later to higher end housing.
Yeah.
If you're looking for turning it into a small office building and the businesses are vacating because the jobs are gone and people are losing their houses,
yeah,
you know, who's the tenant going to be? So you have to, you know, really kind of, I mean, honestly, Will, you have to consult with people like you and me.
Right.
You know, you have to go to real estate brokers or agents that know what the heck they're doing.
Yeah.
And you have to build your team. That's the bottom line. You can't go with this thing. If you want to try and do this on your, you know, we hear all the time, oh, you guys, you know, you real estate agents, you make too much money and you don't do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Believe me, I never have one of my clients that I just put $300,000 in, you know, in profit in their pocket.
Right.
I've never had them say, hey, Todd, you're not worth the money.
Yeah.
You know, hey, you did a bad job. You know, they make sure when you find somebody good and they are good, and you know they're the right one to advise you on the real estate level. And look, you got to make the decision as an investor. It can go the other way, but whose track record is more positive than negative? Yeah. You know, and then listen to them. Right. Listen to them when they say, "Look, make it happen. Pull. You know, do the deal." Yeah. Do the deal. Right. You know, so, you know, have a good team.
No, that's a really good point. And I always talk about, you know, team building here on the podcast because, like, you know, man, I played in the NFL and, you know, there's a lot of great individual players out there, but all of the players together make the team, and the team that has the players that work together the best is typically the team that wins the Super Bowl. And that's just kind of how it works. So, you know, let's talk about that for a moment, man. If let's say somebody listening to this podcast, they say, man, you know, Todd is making a lot of sense right now, and they want to go into a market that's emerging with jobs and population growth and start looking for these opportunities of, you know, where they can get on the path of progress and get into, you know, where something's going to scale. How do you go about building a team, and who should they have on their team, you know, if they're looking at doing a strategy like what you're mentioning here?
And that's a really good question. And, you know, you and I have spoken off camera, you know, about this, you know, with you playing in the NFL and understanding. I mean, you, like you said, you have great players, but you need the right center and the right guard. And, you know, all the players have to be great at what they do. Right. So your big team really is, it's not that big. So you need a great agent or broker, right? Somebody that is going to be more interested in building a relationship with you, that has a track record of helping investors, and that they understand that you're going to start somewhere and it's going to be a small commission check for them, right? So you want to make sure that they're not just casting you to the side. You want to ask the questions. How many people do you have in your customer base, your investor base, that I'll be competing against? If I'm looking for a deal, if I'm looking for $100,000 flip, you know, how many people do you have that are interested right now in $100,000 flip? Because you want to make sure they're going to give you that special attention to help give you the opportunity to get the deal. Right. Then you need money. You either have to have some cash on your own, or you need to hook up with a lender. You know people, I know people that, you know, if you know, feel free, you know, you're going to publish, I'm sure, in the show notes, our information, and, you know, be glad to help point people in the right direction. Another big, you know, player on the team is going to be an engineer. You know, somebody that understands civil engineering, you know, what can be done, what can't be done. And then somewhere down on the list, you'll want a real estate attorney. And, you know, and look, attorneys are expensive. And I say, don't use them unless you have to. If you have a good broker, the broker is going to bring the contracts, right? So you don't need to really structure the deal, but you want to structure you know, a good broker will have your interests as far as structuring the deal to give you those opportunities for study periods and breathing room.
Right.
They'll be great at securing the deal and getting it off the market. So
Right.
other people aren't pressuring you, like bidding it up and things like that. So you got to have that broker or that agent, number one, and then really the money, and then the engineer. Then depending on your municipality or your zoning and permits and zoning, who's going to do any drawing. So I always say, pull the daggone permits. I mean, it's not, especially if you're starting out. I mean, I always say pull permits, but especially starting out, it's going to be something that helps you, because inspections are going to protect you against bad contractors that are doing work that's not good. So you may need a drafting person, somebody that does a little bit of design work that can help you lay out the new kitchens or the best floor plans and things like that. But that's really, that consists of your team initially.
Yeah. Now, how much politics go into, trying to get something rezoned and doing development and all of that? How much politics go into that, man?
Well, I guess, that a lot. I mean, it's, there are a lot of politics because, politicians have agendas, right? So, understanding your councilman in the district, finding out if you're putting in a strip club and they may not want that, right? So you might get everybody, including the politicians, saying we don't want that.
Right.
But that's where, when you're dealing on, I always say, have meetings with your local councilman. They're very community oriented. They will tell you what they would like to stand behind, what it is that they want to see. The community really is the politics, because if you get the community coming against you, you're going in and you want to build high density housing or, affordable housing, and they're like, no, not here. We don't want that, So, you might find that, you get some opposition from the community. But let me say, my experience has been, if you have the right to do it, that doesn't mean that they aren't going to drag you through that expensive process of fighting and hearings and community impact studies, things like that. But if the property's zoned for it by a permitted right, you have a lot better chance that you're going to get it done than if you're trying to get a single family house into a high density multifamily zoning. Probably isn't going to happen. Other than an act of God, literally they say act of Congress, because we all know how hard it is to get new bills passed. But there is a lot of politics that go into it, just from a standpoint of making sure you hire at that point the right attorneys, the right engineers. There are some small towns that want to see those small town engineers that they work with every single day. You bring in a city slicker, kind of into the country. And next thing you know, you might have like, well, what's this guy you think he's going to do here in our small, one horse town? So, in that case, we've seen it where it can be a fight.
No. And that brings the next point of, it's all about relationships, relationship with your potential investor partners, and relationship with the brokers, relationships with the city officials. It's all about building those relationships, because you never know when you're going to need them. So, take the time to build relationships.
And build a relationship with the community. One of the first things that I do, and when I'm working with my client, the first thing that I do is, if a house is getting ready to be rehabbed, is I go and I knock on all the neighbors' doors. And I say, hey, this eyesore that's been next to you, I've got great news for you. It's getting ready to be revitalized. It's going to be fantastic. Even if it's a subdivision, whatever it is, here's my card. If you ever are offended by loud noises, work on the weekends, starting before 7 o'clock in the morning, trash blowing in your yard, do me a favor, call me, because this owner doesn't want that. So we want to work with the community in the neighborhood and communicate with them. Because when you want to do it again and again and again, you talk about the politics. When you show the inspectors or the zoning or permitting department that you're a bad actor and you don't care about anybody else, it's going to be really hard for you to continue. You want to build a relationship with those inspectors that they say, man, whenever I call Todd, he takes care of it like that. When I know Todd's doing the job, it's going to be right. You know, and then you get into those relationships where they're not going to give you something, you know, illegally. That's not going to happen, but they will be a lot more, you know, lenient when it comes to allowing you different, you know, time and things like that. So make sure that you're good to the community too, not just to the people that are approving the permits, being friendly with them and nice and polite, but be polite to the community too. Right.
No, that's
get them on your side.
Oh yeah. That's key. That's key. Okay, man, let's go ahead and segue to the next segment of the show. I want to talk about a deal that you repurposed and got rezoned, and you know, how did you find it? You know, what did you see? Let's talk about that, man.
Yep. Well, I have one I'm in the middle of right now, actually. So I've, you know, repurposed a lot of deals, but we'll talk about one that I'm in right now. And if the viewers, I don't know how long it'll be up, but if you want to go to, you know, Essex-md.com, so ESSEX-md.com, you'll see the project. But basically it's a commercial project that I started. I bought the lot 10 years ago. So guys, you know, when we talk about, you know, some things happen quicker than others, some it just takes the test of time. So I bought this lot that was an acre site, and it actually was a wooded lot. So it was full trees. And it was in what we have here locally is a DR16. So dense residential 16, which is sort of like the minimum that you really get to when you're looking at, you could put townhouses in something like that. So it was mostly DR16, and it had a very small piece of BL, which was business local. I bought it for a very affordable price at the time. I bought it for, I think it was $130,000 10 years ago, a wooded lot. And, you know, right on a busy road that was happening, that renaissance was about to happen. And I found that out by reaching out to real estate attorneys, understanding what was going on, the local councilman at the time, the local business people. I watched, there was 2 apartment complexes locally that they took over the government through eminent domain. They were a lot of problems. They turned one of them into a park. They turned another one into a mixed use development. And so I knew that things were moving in that trend line. So over the next several years, you know, I cleared the lot, hired the engineer, hired an architect, and designed what in the commercial space called a convenience center, which is a small, this thing's 8,300 square feet of what would serve the local community. That's where you see your dry cleaners, your liquor stores, your sub shops, your things like that. So I put together, you know, this 8 unit, or could be less, but ideally an 8 unit tenant structure. But I had to go through, and first, before I did that, I went through and rezoned it so that I could make it all BL. So then we bumped the level up a little bit, in value. So we went through that process, and then the market crashed. Then we hit 2008. We had the whole thing spoken for. We had tenants that were going to go in. And then the market crashed in 2008. It ended up being a lot worse than what we expected. And my tenants backed out. So we kind of pulled back a little bit, which is what happens, not uncommon. But I wasn't capitalized on this thing. You know, I capitalized, but not in debt. So now the area is rooftops going like crazy again, brand new communities, you know, going all around, what we call new rooftops in the development phase, you know, or the development industry. And we like to see that. So now we've got it back on the market again. So we're, you know, looking at, you know, flipping that deal at a good profit. So, you know, that is a perfect example of taking a residential partial, turning it all to commercial and developing it out so that it's basically a turnkey sale for somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got it to the point of they can go ahead and start, the build up from there, right?
We have active grading permits on the job. We put the stormwater management pond is in place. We cut the curb cut and put the entrance in. We took all the topsoil off, brought it up in compactable lifts. Yeah. We even took it one step further and did a phase 2 environmental, which included doing some core drilling or borings where the building foundation's going to go, so that the engineers could design a footer structure for the building. Yeah. And then we went even further than that and hired the architect to design the building, and we have it to almost completion. So somebody can come right in, apply for a building permit, and build it. Yeah. We actually have somebody that's interested in taking over the project right now. That's why I say I don't know how long that website will be live. If you're watching this 6 months from now and it's not live, there's more like it. So, be happy to share projects that we're involved in.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really cool project, man. And, I love you sharing that story because everybody thinks that it's easy to do, this real estate game, and it can be challenging. And, you persevered through, challenging situations, and where one person may see, well, man, that's not possible. Somebody like yourself will say, hey, it's not possible that way, but maybe I can do it this way. And, that's perfect example, man. You started out, had to take a little, break, and then things came back, and now you're able to go ahead and do your plan that you wanted to do. So that's awesome, man.
Will, I gotta say, man, I mean, I've been through business. I've been through 2 major downturns. The first one almost put me into bankruptcy. Believe me, guys, I was a young guy, started out gung-ho, got myself in trouble with a local builder. They didn't pay me, threw me in a tailspin. I was being sued by people. Fortunately, I paid everybody off. I avoided bankruptcy like everybody tried to get me to do. Right. And, but it was a tough go, there. So it's like anything, man. There's no magic bullet. I mean, it's, it's hard work. It's a great industry, but no matter what business you're starting or investing in, there are risks. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. All right, man, let's go ahead and segue to the last segment of the show. This is our lightning round. You ready to go? Sure. All right, man. What's the best advice you ever been given? Oh, man, the best advice. I would say the best advice, Will, that I've ever been given is to challenge everything. I think, like this podcast, so we're trying to give advice, right? Right. But, listen to people, but don't take it necessarily as gospel. You want to be smart. The biggest lies you feel that we've been taught from adolescence is that money is hard to make. That's number one. Right. And that you have to crawl before you walk. And, I think that, it's just like the saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. That's a lie, right? So words hurt us more than, in the old days, you get into a fight, you punch each other, you love each other. 10 minutes later, things are great. You speak words and it actually does hurt people. So that's a lie. So, and I've also found that making, money's hard to make is a lie. I think that if you think that, you're going to be struggling constantly because you're looking for those reasons why you can't succeed. Right. So I think the best advice was to challenge that. Don't believe it. Don't believe the lies. Yeah, no, man, that might be one of the best, advice giving tips you gave on this show. And I'm about 70 episodes in, man. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's good stuff. What's the best book you've read in the last 12 months? I know you got a big bookshelf behind you, man. So remember what I was just saying, that the lies, you got to crawl before you walk, right? I think that's another lie, right? Oh, you got to start out slow. Now in real estate, that doesn't mean you start out with the biggest investment deal. Start out with what you can afford. Right. But there's a book that I really like, and I've read it several times, and I think you got the book. I got it. Yep. And what the book is called is Not the Big That Eat the Small, It's the Fast That Eat the Slow.
Right.
And I'm going to apply this into our listeners and the ones that have been saying, I want to invest in real estate, but I got this problem and that problem, and I'm not ready, and I'm not. They got analysis paralysis.
Right.
You're going to get beat every time by the fast one, right? That's not afraid to make the deal happen.
Right.
Put your comfort, once you consult with a team, put your comfort zone together. When something fits in that comfort zone, make a move. Know what those boxes are that you're checking, man. When those boxes check, buy the thing. So it's not the big that eat the small. You don't have to be the biggest. You don't have to be the biggest. It's the one that makes the decision. The calculated decision.
Yeah.
Quickly, that beats the slow every single time. So that's a good book.
Yeah.
And so if you're listening, I don't make any money I have so many people that have bought that book, man.
Right.
That I've told, and they love it.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I don't make a penny by doing it. So.
Oh yeah, no, it was a great book, man. I listened to it on Audible, so man, I'm going to listen to that thing about 3-4 more times, man.
And it's 20 years old.
Wow.
It's a 20-year-old book, so when you think about it, it applies right now.
Right.
But I think it was a little before its time, but so true.
Yeah, 100%. What are some rituals that you've created that's, making you a better person or investor in general?
Oh, rituals. Okay. I would say, well, first, love God. I mean, for me, and I don't know what your beliefs are, but for me, I'm a Christian, and I try and, rely on that, the higher power, for my strength, my inner strength, because times, look, man, it doesn't matter what business you're in. I tell my kids this all the time, and they have jobs, they're not self-employed, but everything, it becomes challenging at one point or another.
Right.
Everything is subject to change. So I think to understand, for me, it's been to be able to rely on strength when I don't feel I have it.
Right.
And 32 years of self-employment, that's gotten me through.
Right.
Besides the ritual of, trying to eat healthy, trying to, put good things in your body and work out. The biggest ritual that I have is not to rob myself of proper planning.
Right.
And that planning is every single day.
Yeah.
So, it sounds cliche, work your plan your work your plan. That is a big guide for me. So I try and take everything out of my brain every single day, and I do it as the day goes on. I've got a voice recorder on my phone.
Yeah.
If I'm driving down the road and I have a thought that pops into my head, I try and take it down. At the end of the day, I try and write my list out and then prioritize my list. But guys, if you really want to know the key that I can say as far as the things that I've done that have attributed to my success as far as what I have the power to do, it's not avoiding the things that I don't feel like doing.
Right.
So, as business people, we want to do the easy stuff. Yeah. We don't want to pick up the phone. We make that secondary. If making money requires you to pick up the phone, doing anything else is not going to make you money.
Right. Right.
So taking that, those to-dos, aligning them according to priority, and then acting on the things that you just don't feel like doing.
Right.
Get them done, get them out of the way. And, it's been probably single-handedly the best thing I've done.
Yeah.
Push myself.
Yeah. No, that's some good stuff. And I'm also a Christian, man. So it's good to be connected with fellow Christians, man, that's in the real estate game. So, good stuff there, man. What is one thing, if you could just write down one thing that you're really focusing on right now to help you move forward, what is that one thing?
Teaching.
Yeah.
You get to a point in your life and your career where you start thinking about, what are you leaving behind?
Right.
right? So I think, you know, and for me, like I said, I'm 52. I'm getting to the point where, you know, I feel great. And I hope that I have a bunch of years to give back, but I'm really focused right now on teaching people how to do things right. I think that there's so much bad advice out there. Not that I always give the best advice, but, you know, I always try and say to people, and I say this to my agents, you know, when they're looking, or somebody will call me and they say, should I join Sachs Realty? What do you have to offer over another broker?
Right.
And I say, well, you know, what do you want out of the business?
Right.
You know, if you want to understand what it means to invest yourself and make it, or how to teach people how to invest and have them make it, or how to advise people what it's like to own a home and make it, is that manager that you're going to be working for, have they torn hundreds of houses apart?
Right.
Have they developed land? And I'm not that I'm patting myself on the back, but it's just what I've done.
Right.
So I'm at that point to where I think people that are around me and people that rely on me appreciate that aspect, that I've walked that walk.
Yeah.
And I think you can't fake that. You know, it's time and experience. So for me, my focus right now is, how do I teach that? How do I teach the right way to do it? You know, and that other people can have a great career, whether they're starting out or trying to find their sweet spot, or how many investors can I help that really want to have passive income,
right,
and grow, you know, a worth of, you know, a net worth that they can give that job up and not have to worry about Social Security as their, and Medicare as their backup plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that would be it. Teaching.
Yeah. No, that's good stuff. Real good stuff, man. Last question for you. If you can give your younger self one tip in regards to investing, what would that be?
Don't look for the silver bullet. You know, work hard. Don't look for the shortcut.
Yeah.
Don't use don't look for somebody else. Don't look for somebody else to lose in order for you to gain. You know, make a win-win in the deals that you make. And if it doesn't mean that you leave money on the table, it has nothing to do with the profitability, but understand what the people that are involved on the other side, understand what their importance of the deal is.
Right.
And, you know, and ask questions. Don't just care about yourself, care about people, care about the people on the other side. It's okay that they're losing and that you're gaining. If it's got to be that way, but find out what motivation or dignity that they have, or that will help them get through that hardship of their loss, that at the end of the day, you've kind of helped them too. And if you can find that win, and even somebody that is losing, you're going to feel really good about the deal. And man, it's, you know, good things are coming your way.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Good deal, man. But Todd, we at the end of the show here. Tell my listeners, how can they get in touch with you?
You know, I mean, I love, you know, I'm a fellow YouTuber just like you, man. So if you, you know, want to, you know, subscribe to Sachs Realty's YouTube channel, SACHS, Sachs Realty. I'm sure, Will, you're going to, you know, hopefully post it in the notes. You know, you can reach out to me. You know, all of my information is on my YouTube channel. I'd love to provide resources for you. You know, so don't be afraid to reach out. I'm very reachable. I have, you know, a great team of people also, like you, Will, that, you know, somebody's looking in North Carolina. I mean, obviously, you know, we work together. I mean, we're going to send people to competent, you know, to the competent players that we have in our, you know, in our network. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. And thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you for listening to the Generational Wealth Through Commercial Real Estate podcast, brought to you by Onyx Capital Investments. Onyx Capital Investments works with investors nationwide to invest in income-producing real estate in emerging markets. Connect online at www.onyxcapitalinvestments.com to learn more about what we're doing. If we have added value to your life, please leave us a review.